Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Hugh Louch. I'm the Deputy Public Works Director in charge of transportation here at the City of Hayward, and really pleased to join you all in talking about the Orchard Avenue Traffic Calming Project. I've joined the city fairly recently, a little more than a month ago, with a long experience in transportation, and very excited to be working on this project and other projects with the community and with the city. Um, Today's meeting, just want to make sure folks know, is being recorded so that we can post it for folks who are not able to attend and be able to see it. And obviously, this is a follow-on meeting from a meeting we held back in January, and it looks like most of you were able to make that meeting, which is great. But a few folks this will be some new information, and our focus is really going to be very much on what we can do in the short term in this meeting. But we understand this is a long-term project as well. We will be running through a presentation here in just a second that Byron will give, and then we will have at the end of that an opportunity for some Q&A that can be done through the Zoom interface, so we can take typed questions in the Q&A as folks raise their hand, we'll be able to take questions as well. So with that said, let me introduce Byron Tang, a Senior Transportation Engineer with the City of Hayward, and he will run through the presentation for you.
All right, thank you, Hugh. Let's get started. All right, so for today, the topics that we'll discuss is we're going to go over a little bit about the community meeting that we had in January, just to get everyone on the same page. And then we'll discuss the short-term plans that that would be recommended here. That would be the main point for this meeting. And then we're going to talk about the updated schedule and what that means with the short-term plans that are being proposed. And of course, very important, and really that's why we're here and we created this meeting, is really to get your feedback, your comments, questions, for us to be able to engage with the community is very important and a priority to the city. So with that, I'll get started. So community meeting number 1 was held in January, and we held it at the John Muir Elementary School in the neighborhood. We had over 50 people attend, including the city's mayor, council members, city manager, we had police, fire, and city staff from multiple departments were all there. At the meeting, we discussed improvements that we proposed based on the data that we had at the time. And those improvements needed funding and time to complete. They're pretty substantial. We also discussed, Sergeant Matthews discussed recent enforcement efforts that our police department was also doing in the area. And that was mainly on the speeding that we were seeing. In the community meeting, we received a lot of great feedback. So we heard from the residents that there is a lot of speeding on Orchard, and that really was in line with the data we were seeing. We also heard a lot about the through traffic that was coming through Orchard. So a lot of vehicles who use Jackson and Mission saw that as a way Orchard is convenient. So we heard a lot about that. We also heard concerns about the use of truck and heavy vehicle traffic using Orchard, and we know Orchard is parts of it is very much a narrow residential street, and it definitely can feel out of place. We also heard a lot of parking concerns, and this is from individual cases to areas that needed to look at, the city needed to look at parking. So we received a lot of feedback on that. And then we did hear that, something needed to be done in the short term. And I think we really had to take a look at this, because it's really important for the city to do action, because we understand that there has been a long time where not a lot if residents felt that, Orchard didn't get the attention that should be given. So in between that time from the first community meeting to now, just like to talk about some of the progress that was made. The team looked, with the feedback received, a fresh perspective at what the design can be for this quarter. The city also received additional staff, which helped put new eyes to the project. We also did additional outreach. So we reached out to HUSD, the newcomers program. The manager there was very helpful, and we did walks along the corridor to look at the design challenges and see what other solutions we may have missed. The Public Works coordinated with the police department and gave some attention to truck. We know trucks, Orchard is truck restricted routes. There are signs showing truck restrictions, so some enforcement was done. We know our police department is very busy, so we know that they can't be out there all the time, and we know there's still work to be done, but we were able to do some coordination there. And with all that, we were able to develop plans for a short-term pilot project, which is kind of the main part of this presentation today that we'll be presenting. And then, as you know, we're holding a second community meeting ahead of the initial schedule that we presented. So we're happy to be able to do that. All right, so this is the start of the talking about the short-term plans. Everything you see is more conceptual in nature, so we're not going to dive deep into the details. First thing that I think everyone understands is the need to improve the operations of the traffic circle. As it is today, cars can fly right through, go over the striping without any vertical element or posts. They can kind of just do what they want. So as you remember, the previous plan we proposed had concrete, and they were substantial and good improvements, but the drawback was that the additional costs and the time to do demanded a longer timeline. So we can achieve similar results with cheaper materials and do it faster. And you might be wondering what those blue dots are. So some examples of what these could be. On the top right, we actually use those at a different project. So we can have 71s like that, or delineators like below, which is also used in other parts of the city. So right now that's not set in stone, but the general idea is we would use these kind of devices to help kind of make this more operate like a real roundabout. We also want to increase the visibilities of all existing crosswalks. So as you can see here in the north, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the north crosswalk does not look like that right now. And we would like to, bring that visibility up to, so, it's more visible. All right. To address speeding, reducing Orchard to one travel lane can do a lot. So as if you were in the first meeting, the data showed that the speeding was most extreme between Joyce to Mission Boulevard, which is a stretch you're looking at here. And with being able to reduce one travel lane in each direction is going to give a narrowness to the street that won't make it feel like, they're on a freeway, the motorists are on a freeway. So in looking at the capacity, this additional capacity of road is really not needed. One lane in each direction is enough. So we're recommending in the short-term plans, we can do this at a reduced cost by doing it this way. So reducing the one travel lane will really help in addressing speeding. evaluating the intersection is also part of this, because when you take away one lane, you can't have 2 lanes from Carlos B going into Orchard anymore. So we're gonna look at this. We are evaluating and we proposing that we change the operations of this intersection where there are turn pockets that are not needed, like extra turn pockets. We can reduce it to 1 turn pocket. This helps in discouraging people from using Orchard as a shortcut. For example, like if there's less capacity, then hopefully other ways will be more attractive to go. So here are additional changes. Regarding the trucks, the team looked at where the existing signs are. And currently at the intersection of Orchard and Mission, 1 sign exists here for no trucks. And it's, it does tell trucks that Orchard Avenue is not a truck route, but by the time they see it, they're already on Orchard. And what are the chances that they're gonna make a U-turn or turn back? So there are many different locations we can start looking at to add additional no truck signage. So here are some examples. What we want to do is make sure that trucks know ahead of time before they reach the intersection that you're not supposed to use Orchard. So hopefully that is going to, that's definitely going to make a difference in terms of giving them enough time to make a decision if they need to reroute or if they need to take an alternative route. They have enough time to make that decision. Same thing. This is the intersection of Soto and Orchard. These are the locations of the existing signage, but we can add more. This is the intersection of Jackson Soto. So we know trucks use this. We know trucks use Jackson, but why not? Why can't we have a sign here to say you shouldn't be turning? So those are the general, the major parts of the short-term plan that is being proposed based on the feedback we received and a very thorough look from our design team. It is understood that, we received a lot of great feedback from the first committee meeting, and we're going to address all of that. We can't address all of it today, but this is a great start. So some of the things that will require more long-term evaluations and are listed here. So new crosswalks and curb ramp installations, definitely looking at that, looking at where new crosswalks can be added is an important part. Traffic signals and flashing beacons, evaluating where they should be, if any should be added. We did receive a lot of feedback about the raised intersections that currently exist. There's 2 of them on Orchard Avenue. We actually received feedback that 1 should be removed, and we received feedback that they should be kept. So that's still going to be an ongoing discussion and something for us to really look at. Street lighting to make sure that at night people and motorists and everyone are visible, and also people feel safe. And then acknowledging that we did receive a lot of parking requests and concerns, but we are going to address those separately, not as part of this. So we actually ask that you submit those separately through accesshayward.com. And if you can select vehicles, transportation, traffic, parking, it'll get you to a form where you can fill in the info. If you already submitted a comment about that, we have that and from the first meeting, so no need to do it again here, but just information if you would like to. All right, so next steps. What you see in front on this slide is what was proposed in the first committee meeting. Now that a short-term plan has been proposed, it's more clear what the timeline will be. So this is the updated timeline. So as you can see, we're having a second community meeting in May, which means if everything's staying on schedule, we can go to the Council Infrastructure and Airport Committee in June, have something in council later in the summer, and then construction will be expected in fall. So this is the timeline now with the proposed short-term plan. And that concludes the presentation about the short-term plan. I'd like to give it back to Hugh, and he'll help moderate how the questions and answers will be.
Great. Thanks, Byron. Really appreciate that. And thanks everyone for being here again. So you have a couple different options here for asking questions or if you have comments. There should be a raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen, as well as a Q&A feature. And I know somebody has already asked a question, which was just answered on that last slide. And the question was, how soon can the earliest changes be made? And so as Byron said, we're looking at kind of the fall timeframe for implementing the short-term plans. But as folks have questions, feel free to raise your hand or to provide information through that Q&A feature. We got a thanks for the update, and you're very welcome. Happy to provide the update. Okay, starting to see some hands raised, and so I will allow folks to talk here, and then we will talk to your comments. So there are 3 right now. We're going to start with Russell Altig. Apologies if I pronounce your name wrong. You should have the ability to speak.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Can do. Go ahead.
Okay. On the pylons, I would go with the more solid ones because the floppy ones, these people in the 4x4 trucks will just run over them and they'll be trash in no time.
Thank you for that comment. Okay, and now we've got Susie Likes Red. You should have the ability to speak. Try that again. All right, let me try one more time.
You if they are on the phone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, okay. If history has taught me anything about living on O'Neill and Orchard, people don't read signs. So I have many concerns about that because we have trucks on our street like PG&E. We have car trailers for Toyota Service Center. And well, I just know that they are bigger than us and we can't even get out of our driveway, but that has nothing to do with Orchard. It's just that I don't think people read signs. That's my concern.
Yeah, we definitely understand that and appreciate the comment. And yes, signs in and of themselves can't do all of the work of enforcement on our streets. However, we do think that adding some signage for those who do read signs could be a helpful addition, recognizing that it is not by itself the full solution, but definitely appreciate that there's more work that needs to be done as part of this.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. Let's see. Then we have Keith and Cindy M. I'm going to allow you to talk. We're getting a couple questions in too that we'll go to in a second. So hopefully you have the ability to speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I just wanted to get if you guys have any, based upon similar calming projects you've done in another part of Hayward, about how long would this project take, roughly speaking, and will it stop traffic completely during the period of implementation?
So I don't know, Byron, if you want to speak a little bit to that.
I mean, the improvements we're proposing are not substantial. I mean, it's really just striping and vertical elements and signage. So I wouldn't expect uh, like complete closures. We can work around that, and a lot of this work it's not heavy civil work, so I think it should be the delays and things like that should be minimized, and understanding the capacity of the corridor. um, you know, if you're talking about the area where we're reducing it to one lane, um, yeah, it shouldn't be a major issue.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Um,
welcome.
I would just add, this is Alex Ameri, Public Works Director. I would just add to what Byron mentioned and tell you that the implementation of the pilot, which is the project that was described earlier, should take approximately a few weeks. I would say no more than 4 weeks. And during the course of the construction, the traffic is going to be maintained. No one is going to have to go around or do something different. Traffic is going to be maintained while the project is going to be implemented. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome. Let's see. So next we have Ms. Parr, and I see you had a question here about the estimated cost of the short-term proposal. And just to maybe answer that quickly, this is we're still working on the details, so we don't have a cost estimate specifically for it right now, but that is something that we are working on producing. But in case you have another question, I'm going to allow you to speak as well. So go ahead.
Yes, hi, thank you. I did have a question in terms of the reducing of the lanes. The way I looked at the illustration that you had, that between the so-called roundabout and Mission going east, that there would not be any lane reduction, or there would not be any lane reduction between Mission heading up farther east toward Campus Drive. And I was just wondering about why it was that area, because that is one of the areas that, I mean, that's where people are speeding both ways. It's part of the problem is quite obviously the underpass. People, they may go 25, 30, 35 until they get around the roundabout. And then when they hit that underpass going east, that's when they start speeding up. That's because it breaks into 2 lanes. That's where people are passing somebody who is actually obeying the speed limit. So I was kind of curious about why that area was not, those 2 areas were not included.
Yeah, so the plan is on Orchard itself to consistently be 1 lane in each direction for all of Orchard with this temporary project, the temporary implementation. Beyond that, on the other side of Mission onto Carlos B has not been kind of formally beyond the changes at the intersection to sort of make that 2-lane, 1 lane in each direction work. It hasn't been something that has been a sort of focus of this project, but I think we can take that request, and we do have other projects, that we're working on and other needs that we know exist, and continue to look at that in the future. But that hasn't been part of this this study, if you will. I don't know, Byron, if there's something you want to add.
Well, you do know that people, going the other way, heading toward Soto, that they are coming down the hill
Understood.
and
Yeah.
hit Mission at 60. I mean, there was just an accident the other day where somebody was hit on a scooter. There was a bicyclist killed at that intersection. There's been many accidents because it's just natural, this slope. And then they don't slow down till maybe past the roundabout. It's just, and so it just doesn't seem like this doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I definitely understand and hear you, and very sorry to hear about obviously people getting hit in these situations. We are going to reduce the capacity coming into there with that particular kind of challenge in mind, right? To help sort of shift folks earlier from being in a mode where there's a lot of capacity to being one where there's less. Now, how far kind of up the hill that goes is something that I think we can look at. As I say, we're still working on the kind of fine details of what the short-term implementation looks like, and also longer term. So there we can definitely look at what that looks like, but we want to make sure we provide a pretty good size. What you have here is just kind of a graphical, kind of conceptual view of what the sort of end result may be, but not the actual design of that. So there is still quite a bit of time to work on the fine details and help try to address some of the types of challenges that you're identifying, which we agree definitely need to be addressed.
Well, thank you for doing this, but also the gentleman who said that the limpier pylons would just get wiped out within the week.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
The
You agree with that? Was that what you were saying?
I agree with the gentleman who
Okay,
said you need
yeah.
the more the
Robust.
sturdier
Yeah.
ones, similar to the ones that I believe it's on Campus Drive.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, we appreciate that input. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we have Councilmember Andrews who wants to speak, so I'm going to let you talk.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the presentation. Just wanted to remind everyone that Mayor Mark Salinas, myself, as well as Councilmember George Syrup sit on the Infrastructure and Airport Committee. And if this item comes up, be sure to look at the location, as we could be meeting at City Hall versus the airport. So just be sure to look at the location and the time when that committee meeting comes up. And then also, just for staff, just wanted to make sure that I understand the comment regarding folks not reading signs. If it's possible, if once we start moving further with implementation, is it possible when we communicate out the next Orchard Avenue meeting, if it's possible to highlight the changes as well, just so it can be referenced in the letter or in the newsletter, noting that some of the changes that were made, including signs and informing the public, they should include reading signs as part of that transition that will happen on Orchard Avenue. I know it won't get everyone that drives on Orchard Avenue, but at least it will be a community-wide outreach on terms of some of the implementation that's happened.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Andrews. Absolutely. As we share more information, we can absolutely think about how we are communicating that out to folks, and yeah, using all these opportunities of projects we're doing to kind of help educate kind of expectations for folks. And even and it's not my place to speak for PD necessarily, but I know that a lot of the work they do, every time they're doing enforcement, they're really doing it also as like an educational activity. So to the extent that folks are not following those signs, they can use that to help make folks understand what the expected behavior is in those situations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I see that Susie Legtrade, you still have your hand up. I don't know if that's still up, but I'll let you unmute if you have another question.
I don't have any other question.
Okay.
I just know that I'm responsible for a lot of the signs on the corner of O'Neill and Orchard. And I know for a fact that people make U-turns all the time and they don't read that no U-turn sign.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we do have one comment from an anonymous attendee, which asks when the roundabout or what they call a sorry excuse for a roundabout, is going to be ripped out of the intersection of Orchard and Joyce. And I think what I would say, or what we would say as staff, is that we agree that it is not designed today as a roundabout that functions the way a roundabout is intended to function. We know it needs some work. I think, as Byron mentioned, the longer term plans did include work that would help it work better. And the short term plan, we think, is a great way to try to see if we can make it work the way a roundabout's supposed to work. And that will also provide really useful information to us to see, if it should remain into the future. And because if we can't make it necessarily work, then we can also consider other options in the future. But roundabouts can be very effective. There's really good data showing that roundabouts can be effective and improving safety, but we definitely understand that they have to be designed in a way that's meant really to do that. And then we have, again, Russell Alsig. I'll let you unmute.
Okay, you mentioned lights in there. We could use a crosswalk light at probably at Thomas, because it's a good midpoint, like the one at the on Soto at the Greenway, something like that.
Yeah, thank you for that. We can definitely take that input and include it as we move forward. Okay, and then we have Ms. Parr again. You should be able to speak.
Hi, thank you. In terms of the so-called roundabout, as you know, it was never designed properly, even up to standards when it was put in. It was more of a bone thrown to the neighborhood. But I do have a question concerning it. When it was first put in, there were what we used to call dot spots that were on it. So there was a rumble effect, and those driving over them have disappeared, and they were never replaced by the city as they disappeared. And so I was wondering if there's any consideration to putting either those back or something that a vehicle is aware that it is actually not in the traffic lane, but it is in the what sadly passes for a joke of a roundabout, but at least something that it was a little better at the beginning.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's really really useful input, and we can absolutely look at putting some additional something additional into even in the temporary plan that would use, again, sort of more temporary type materials. It's not something I would say that we've decided on for sure yet, but it's certainly something we can look at. I know the botch dots were used a lot quite a few years ago, and they're a little less common now. They come off relatively easily. They require a lot of maintenance, but we can look at sort of a range of potential sort of treatments that we could do to make it, as you say, sort of behave more like the way a roundabout is supposed to behave. So that's certainly something that we can look at. And I see that Council Member Syrup has his hand up. I'll let you speak.
Hi, thanks so much for putting together this meeting, and thank you everyone for attending. I think a question that came up before, and I was just wondering if you could speak to it, is the use of either speed bumps or stop signs approaching or before the roundabout. I understand going from Mission down Orchard, it takes you down and up a hill. So I was wondering if you could maybe speak to or help folks understand where and when those kinds of tools could be implemented here, if at all.
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have, and actually just are in the process of updating some of our requirements around speed humps, but things like the slope and the number of vehicles and the type of road do have sort of bearing on the city policy that exists for where we install speed humps. So we do try to follow that, although we evaluate each request sort of on a case-by-case basis as well. So, we have to be mindful of where we put them, certainly, and they can be a good tool in some places, but not necessary in every part of the corridor. And then I'll just look to Byron if there's anything you want to add to that.
I'll say it's definitely something. It'd be great to look at. After the short-term plan. I think like the kind of improvement it is, we can look at those options. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As we
Yeah,
evaluate.
because I want to make sure all options are on the table. I understand there's regulations around some of them. And just to echo a previous commentary, I also want to advocate for the use of heavier bollards versus the thin, skinny ones. They've been effective on campus, and I've even seen videos where folks are installing metal bollards to really help people get the message that you are not going to go fast on the street. So whatever we can do to slow the cars down. I've actually adopted the block for Orchard. So I have a lot of friends that come and clean up the street every few months, and I want to make sure that it's safe for people to go up and down.
Yeah. And I would say we're definitely, this isn't after the short-term plans, our work is not done. We're going to evaluate how effective things are. And from there, we'll be able, that'll determine, what the next measure should be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks you. Much appreciated. Let's see, do we have any other folks with comments or questions? Feel free to raise your hand. Oh, I see Ms. Parr, your hand is up again. I don't know if that's intentional. Maybe I'll give you a second to lower it in case that was just a holdover. So your question is, where can people submit more comments? So we do have, I don't know if Byron, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. I'm gonna put an answer in the chat where you can also email us. If it's like a parking related concern, using the Access Hayward, or it's like a signage request. Sometimes Access Hayward is better option, but you can also email us, so I can put that into the chat. I'll do that right now, or the question and answer.
Okay, any additional comments or questions from folks? Well, I just want to say, I know, oh, here we go. We have another hand come up. I see a couple hands. So we've got Rich Fierro. I'm gonna let you talk.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for putting it together. I was just wondering if we could get a little bit more notice about the next meeting, because it literally just showed up in our mailbox today that the meeting was this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Apologies if the notice was to you a little bit late, and absolutely, but we'll do our best to make sure that you get more advanced notice of this meeting and the next time we have a meeting. And then I see Susie likes red. You have a question as well.
Hi. There's only one other concern that I have, and it's about the speeding in the middle of the night. I don't know what more to say. It's like we're laying in bed and we've been woken up by cars just going just flying up and down Orchard and Mission. It's like NASCAR. It's really, really bad. And it's always right around 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's almost every night.
Yeah, that's very useful. Appreciate that, and again, that's something we can pass along to folks in the police department to be aware of if there's a kind of consistent pattern, and when they have an opportunity to look into that.
Please, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, not seeing any additional hands. I do want to thank everybody for coming. I do want to acknowledge that, this is a quarter that we know has sort of a particular set of challenges. We've definitely heard you through the meetings that we've held about what some of those challenges are. We're hopeful that doing this short-term implementation will really help both address some of those challenges and also provide us with a lot of useful information for how to move into a permanent set of improvements. But we know it's the street you live on, many of you or all of you, and it creates quite a big challenge. So we're here, we're working with you. Certainly continue to be in touch with us, continue to reach out. We're happy to have conversations with anyone about what's planned. If you have additional ideas as we go, I definitely want to hear them. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to communicating with folks as this moves forward.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
And I see, just as before I let you guys, there's someone asking, is there a public link to the update shared on this call? We can post the slide deck to the project website, which is listed, the Orchard Traffic Calming website. We will post it there. Thank you all.